Signal, and that marks the beginning of my program. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes.
That's all true.
Right here, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9. Good morning on this beautiful November day right after Thanksgiving. It's a beautiful day, too. It's 50 degrees right now, 51 degrees out there. Looks like we had some showers overnight, but I think it's going to be a beautiful, sunny day today. Now, this 28th day of November, there is a lot I want to talk about today. We finally, that was 3 finalies, Todd, my engineer this morning, Todd. Good morning, Todd. Finally got guidance from the IRS on PPP and what's happening with that. So if you are listening to Gilbert Talks Taxes and you're a business owner, you're going to want to stay tuned for this, because I'm going to talk about PPP. If you got some PPP money, that was the Payroll Protection Program money that can be forgiven. If you got any forgiven money, actually, you're going to want to listen to what I got to say about that. Going to talk about four last-minute year-end retirement deductions, okay, for this year. And I'm going to talk about a couple of other things, too. Wanted to just quickly go over also some last-minute business deductions. Now, Todd, I haven't talked to you about this. Let me get some housekeeping out of the way. First of all, I am Gilbert Carmona. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm a tax practitioner. I do tax returns. I also do financial planning. I also do pretty much anything that's got to do with taxes. I do tax issue resolutions. If you got problems with the IRS, usually problems with the IRS means you owe money. That's like the only problem you have with the IRS. You owe them money. If you owe money and it just isn't right and you need it looked at, reviewed, whatever you need, that's what I do. I'm an enrolled agent. My authority comes from the Internal Revenue Service. As an enrolled agent, I can represent you in all those matters, and including state matters, too. North Carolina gets their fair share of letters going out to people. If you need me, my telephone number is 828-289-9300, or you can send me an email at gilbert@gilberttalkstaxes.com. You can send me that. Go to my website, gilberttalkstaxes.com. You can listen to podcasts of these programs. Also, somebody told me YouTube uploads. Excuse me, I've got a little case of sniffles here. YouTube uploads these. You can see them. I've gotten phone calls from people in other states that have been looking up tax problems and remedies, and my videos have come up. I have been very impressed with that. It's from the video of those of you that might be watching me, live streaming me at www.wcab59.com. Now, if you have a question, you can call the program here. This is a live program, 828-287-3356. What is that they say in the commercial? Personnel is standing by to answer your call right now. So feel free to call if you have any questions. I try to answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll come back the next week. Sometimes they'll have some hard questions for me, or you can email me your question and I will return it. Now, I'm going to take care of a little housekeeping, Todd. Next week, we are actually going to be in Atlanta. Because of this, and that's not the only reason, but because of the China virus, it's very hard for our continuing education providers to book events here in North Carolina, because our governor, who I believe was fraudulently reelected, I'm going to get into that in a minute, and I say that boldly, okay, because I can, and I'll get that 1 minute, but our fraudulently reelected, in my opinion, governor is insistent on a lockdown in the state still, and I get it. I mean, the virus there are people getting it, I understand. But at what point? I mean, at what point is this costing more than the remedy? Is just the expense. So they can't, our continuing ed providers cannot book events in North Carolina, because typically to these events I go to, several thousand people show up. I go to major continuing ed events. We have a lot of the vendors will show up to show us their new products. A lot of the tax experts, national tax experts, come to speak, and they're not doing it. They try to do these online things, but really, you don't get a fraction of what you get when you go there in person, because you can talk one-on-one to, again, national experts, people who live, eat, and breathe taxes. And so we're having to go to other states. So next weekend we're going to be in Atlanta. I will not be able to do the program live or even phone it in. The following weekend, we're also scheduled. The following weekend we're going to be in Tennessee for a 2-day continuing ed, Friday and Saturday, and that one starts promptly at 8 o'clock. We talked about recording some things, but I just don't think it's the same. So, Todd, we're going to take a break. This is going to be my last show of the year for 2020. We will be back January 2nd, right? That's that Saturday? Yes. January 2nd, Todd, we will be back 2021, and you will be here. I know you will be. You'll be here. Thank you so much for being here, because I couldn't do this without you. I don't even know which one's the on button. Okay? Jim keeps that a secret. He doesn't want anybody to know where that is. So we will be back. So we are going to take the next, and then of course the 26th and the 1st. Anyway, those two days. I just don't think those are going to work for our schedule. So we will be back. We will be back that Saturday, the very first Saturday of January. And I'm excited about it. I am very, very, very excited about it. Right? Did I say that right? Because the 31st is a Friday. No, 31st is a Thursday. The 1st is the Friday, the 2nd, January 2nd. Yes. Yes. We will be here. Okay, so with that out of the way, those of you that are my clients, do not fear. I will be around for you. We are doing last-minute tax planning. Now, I want to talk about last week's program. And I got several comments from several people about it. And I want to make one thing crystal clear. When I say what is truth, and we pray and we ask God what is truth, what is truth? Those of you know that listen, I read Isaiah 44. The man that makes idols out of pieces of wood, and he doesn't stop and he doesn't say, what is this thing I'm holding in my right hand? What is truth? And of course, Pontius Pilate looked at Jesus, truth himself, in the face and asked him, what is truth? Okay, so, but what is truth? And I was talking about last week, and I made the comment, well, what if Donald Trump does not get reelected? Well, what is truth? What is truth? The truth is, Donald Trump won this election by probably the largest landslide of any election that's ever been won. That is beyond shadow of a doubt. As more and more and more and more testimony keeps coming out, and more people are signing affidavits and coming forward, and we're seeing the depth of the software fraud. Well, we all knew it that night. How is the president beating Joe Biden by 400,000 votes at one point? Then he loses 20,000. How does his number go down? How does that even happen? His number went down by 20,000, and Joe Biden's went up by 20,000. It's like 19,000 and change. And you would come back, and Joe Biden picked up like 400,000 votes, and Trump didn't get any. I mean, it's impossible. We all know it's impossible. And even people who aren't really, don't even really, don't have a dog in the hunt, as we say, are saying this is impossible. So as the affidavits keep coming in, things keep coming in, that is truth. That is truth. I say the largest landslide ever, even worse than the Reagan landslide. He might even eclipse the Lincoln landslide. Will we ever know? One day there will be a judgment, and one day there will be an accounting, and one day we will know. We will know all truth. So that is truth. We just need to keep praying that this thing works its way out, and that there are enough people who want to know truth, because this is not about left and right and liberal and conservative and Republican and Democrat anymore. This is about evil and good, because when you have to cheat to win an election, and you have to lie after 4 years of lying, I mean, everything against this man has been a lie. Everything has been a lie. Nothing has had any validity to it at all. It has been one lie after another, after another, after another. And what do we find out? Who was really colluding with China? Who was really colluding with Russia? Joe Biden. Oh, well, it really wasn't Joe Biden. It was everyone in his family is walking around going to Russia, going around going to China, going to these countries and coming back with like bags of cash. Bags of cash. And why do I believe it? What is the proof? Because you say, well, prove it. Let me tell you the biggest proof that there is. If it wasn't true that Donald Trump won by the largest landslide ever and that they had to lie, cheat, and steal to get where they are, and they did it so bad that they've left a trail of evidence that is unbelievable. I mean, when we all go to bed at 3 in the morning and he's ahead by, 290,000, and then we wake up at 7 o'clock and he's losing, and his vote count didn't go up by 1. Okay? No, that's called fraud. Okay? But the constant drumbeat from the media and the constant meltdowns. I mean, Obama was at some speaking somewhere, which why a crowd even shows up to hear him speak, I'm not sure. But he was speaking, and he said, well, we might have to call the military in to get Donald Trump out of the White House. You wouldn't be saying stuff like that if you legitimately won. If you legitimately won and you knew you could stand up to the scrutiny of daylight, you wouldn't have to say stuff like that. You would just say, let's go ahead and recount it. Let's go ahead and look at the software. Let's go ahead and do these things. You wouldn't be having literally screaming at the camera, telling us to accept the results. It's incredible. Barack Obama. By the way, he's written his 4th memoir. Did you know that, Todd? His 4th. Ben Shapiro said no human being, alive or dead, should have 4 memoirs. Nobody's that important. I'm sorry. It's his 4th memoir, and it's a 2-volume memoir. It's going to be somewhere around 2,000 pages. I'm sorry. Nobody's life is that important. I mean, Carl Sandburg got Abraham Lincoln's entire life down in a beautiful bibliography, okay? And it's, and he's right at just one really thick book, okay? And that's an entire life. So these are people that are just obsessed with themselves. But the scriptures I want to share are scriptures that a friend of mine so graciously, actually 2 friends of mine, so graciously shared. Psalms 94 and verse 3, Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph and exalt? And then verse 13, that you, God, may give him power to keep himself calm in the days of adversity, until the inevitable pit of corruption is dug for the wicked, verse 23, and he, God, will turn back upon them their own iniquity, and will wipe them out by means of their own wickedness. The Lord our God will wipe them out. And when I was reading these scriptures in Psalm 94, when I was reading them, I thought about the Democrats were the ones that changed the voting rules around that allowed Donald Trump to appoint all these conservative judges and Amy Coney Barrett. Really, they dug their own pit of destruction. And even the one Republican told Harry Reid, the Democrat, don't do this, because one day we're going to be in power and you're going to be upset. Don't do this. Leave it the way it is. But Harry Reid did it, and then one day the Republicans were in power. And then one day they did exactly what he said they were going to do. And they dug their own pit. And then the other scripture was, somebody shared it with me because they were really encouraging me, because I didn't want anybody to think that I was as Margaret Thatcher said, going wobbly. I'm not going wobbly. Donald Trump won this election. God expose all the wickedness. But last week I made the comment, well, what if Donald Trump doesn't win? Well, where I was coming from with that is, we're all thinking, well, there's a scenario where he could run again in 2024, but that's not God's will. God's will is this man is the president in 2020. Okay? So, if any of you, this is James 1, chapter 5 through 8, if any of you is deficient in wisdom, let him ask of the giving God, who gives to everyone liberally, ungrudgingly, without reproaching, and without fault finding, and it will be given him. Only it must be in faith that he asks, with no wavering. For the one who wavers is like the billowing surge out at sea, that is blown hither and thither and tossed by the wind. For truly, let not such a person imagine that he will receive anything he asks for from the Lord. For being as he is a man of two minds, the double-minded man, unstable, unreliable, and uncertain about everything. No, Lord, forgive me, forgive us. We are not going to go wobbly. We are going to be steadfast. We're going to keep asking what is truth, and we're going to stand in that truth that God has given us. Okay, when I get back, I'm going to talk about PPP. I'm going to get right into that because that is a heavy topic. And you business owners, if you received any PPP money, or even if you got EIDL, even if you got some of these other government programs, you're going to want to listen up. We got a new, right off the press. It was just actually issued yesterday. Guidance from the IRS. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9.
As we get ready for this year's tax season, there's one thought on everyone's mind. Will Gilbert's hair look fabulous this year? Oh, yes, it will. How can I say that? Because I go to Robin Saunders at RSL Salon. Whether it's a good haircut, a pedicure, or a manicure, you can count on RSL Salon. Call Robin at 828-289-9110 because everyone deserves to look fabulous. This is Gilbert. I want to tell you about Jesse James Railroad Express at 531 Railroad Avenue in Rutherfordton. It's a great place. Jesse's a good friend of mine, and I encourage you to stop by and support him. On Mondays, he's doing a 99-cent hot dog, mustard, chili, and onions. When you go, tell him Mr. Fabulous himself sent you.
We are back. Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. Thank you so much for those of you that listen, and thank you for the emails that I have gotten from people with questions, encouraging everything. Gilbert at gilberttalkstaxes.com, and I have gotten some great feedback. I've gotten people also were getting into looking at prior year tax returns that other people did. I do that. I will review your tax return if you think you had a problem. Now, I really would like you, though, when you call me or email me about this, let me know what you think the problem is. If you want me to review it to see if I can find deductions, that's really, you need to be a little specific with me. I want you to look at it and see if I overpaid. Now, there are, because some of this stuff gets pretty forensic. You got to drill down into it and find. I reviewed one just yesterday, actually. The man, his prior accountant, omitted, it was probably just an accident too, I mean, these things happen, omitted all his automobile expenses, about $10,000 worth of automobile expenses. That'll change a tax return. That will change a tax return. And in that, I found some other errors, mischaracterized things, and just some of it was just sloppy bookkeeping. Some of it was just not understanding the laws, the rules. So it was pretty good. It was, as he said, this was probably the best 2.5 hours of my business life that I just spent with you. So give me a call, send me an email. You can call us here live at the studio, 828-287-3356. Okay, IRS issued right here. It's in my hands, Todd. I am. Look at that. The ink is still wet. Issued this guidance. Okay, the IRS has confirmed practitioner fears. I'm reading this article. By the way, this article is from Eric Uack. I hope I pronounced that right. Eric Uack wrote this in taxnotes.com. So this is not me. I am reading this. The IRS has confirmed practitioners' fears and clarified that if expenses are funded by a Paycheck Protection Program loan that hasn't been forgiven, that doesn't mean businesses can take the deduction this year. Okay, let me repeat that. If you have expenses that were funded by the Paycheck Protection Program loan, but you haven't been forgiven this year, and so here we are, November 28th. People are applying for forgiveness. Some of them haven't been notified yet if their forgiveness is accepted. You know, you have time to apply still. There's not a deadline, but you're applying. You may not get that forgiveness by December 31st of this year, or you may not apply till next year, till January. Okay? You may not get it. So, let me back up. Some of you may not know how this works. So, in accounting, and this is fundamental accounting. This has nothing to do with the China virus or any money, stimulus, nothing. This is accounting now. If you borrow money to buy, I'm just going to make up an example, you buy inventory. So you borrow $20,000 I borrowed $20,000 from Todd. Todd, crack open that piggy bank. I need $20,000. I need to buy widgets for my business. Todd says, Gilbert, you're a great guy. I'm going to do that. So I borrow the $20,000 to buy these widgets. Now, Todd, being the benevolent man he is, or for whatever reason, that $20,000 loan is forgiven. It's forgiven. The bank forgives it. Sometimes it's forgiven for legal reasons. Sometimes there may be a bankruptcy involved. There may be all kinds of reasons. Or the person just decides to give you the money. Okay? Now, so normally, if I borrowed the $20,000 and I bought this inventory, that inventory is an expense. I expense that on my tax return. It reduces my taxable income. Okay? So if I made $100,000, I spent $20,000 on inventory, I can reduce that $100,000 by $20,000. I'm only going to pay tax on $80,000. Okay? But now, Todd forgave that $20,000 loan. Bank of Todd forgave that $20,000 loan. I cannot expense that $20,000 of inventory that I bought. Why? Because that would be a double tax benefit. Okay? I not only get to deduct, I would not get to deduct the $20,000 and the forgiveness. See, that would be a double tax benefit because the forgiven is not income to me. That was a loan that was forgiven. So because it's not income, I can't expense that $20,000. Now, I made that super simple. There are many, many situations in the real world we run into this, and it's a lot more complicated, but that's the theory, so you understand that. Now, there is an argument that you can say, okay, I want to expense that $20,000. I'm going to go ahead and put that forgiven loan as income. Okay, you can do that. There isn't, that I'm aware of, a generally accepted accounting principle that wouldn't allow you to do that for tax purposes now. But for general accounting, you wouldn't want to do that because that would misrepresent your books. That would misrepresent your income. And the idea of accounting is to give an accurate representation of your business so that investors and banks and the IRS and different people see what is your business, your shareholders, if you have a corporation or you're selling shares, can see what your business is doing because the idea is you want to be transparent. So that's the concept. Okay. With PPP, and this surprised a lot of people because they didn't understand this concept. They didn't understand this because it doesn't happen to a lot of people, but it happens enough. So they didn't understand that if you get money from the government and then you pay payroll taxes, you pay inventory, rents, all the things that you're allowed to do with that money. Now, if it's forgiven, you cannot write those expenses off. So this is going to really affect people's tax returns because they're going to have less expenses than they're normally used to. So those of you that I work with that have gotten $15,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 If it's a lower amount of money, it's not going to be that big a deal. But if you're getting up into 35, 50, 60, 70, 100, I know one business received a little over $1 million in PPP. They have 150 people payroll, and another business got 80,000. Another business got almost 100,000. Some of these are going to feel this impact, and we're going to be really taking a look at this tax return to get this done. So a lot of them haven't applied for forgiveness yet, and they're like, no problem, we'll do the forgiveness next year and we'll worry about it in next year's tax return. Well, the IRS just said no to that plan. If a business, and I'm back to reading Eric's article, if a business reasonably believes that a PPP loan will be forgiven in the future, now what do they call the future? I don't know. PPP loans, in theory, could be forgiven for up to 3 years, but there is a timeline on it. Will be forgiven in the future. Expenses related to the loans are not deductible, whether the business has filed for forgiveness or not. Therefore, we encourage businesses to file for forgiveness as soon as possible, said a Treasury statement. Okay, so when they released Revenue Ruling 2020-27, which goes in with 2020-50, which is Internal Revenue Bulletin number 1, the date of the bulletin was November 18th. Practitioners, now we really have, we kind of expected this was going to be what was going to happen. For weeks we've been saying it. I've been telling all my clients really for months now, don't plan on writing those expenses off whether you get forgiveness or not. You're not writing them off. Well, if you get forgiveness, you're not writing them off. But if you don't get forgiveness, but we think we will, we kind of saw this coming. But it confirmed it. I mean, we were hoping that wouldn't be the case. And the reason is, why is this a big deal? Because we like to report things in actual time, especially if you're on cash accounting. If you're on, the whole reason to have cash accounting is we do things in real time. Money comes in, we post it. You spend money, we post it. Now, in accrual accounting, when you commit to the expense, you post it, and when the client commits to the order, you post it, whether you got the money or spent the money or not. And those of you businessmen know how this works, because this is how you do business. But this is kind of changing things around a little bit, and believe me, there's going to be some confusion. So I wanted to bring this up today on the program. I wanted to get it out there. Everybody be ready for this if you got PPP. Now, there are some other things, other plans the government had, other SBAs that were forgiven. Same rule, or can be forgiven. Same rule. It's going to apply. This is across the board. We're talking about PPP because that's the biggest program, the one that put out the most money. So they released it. The PPP was created by the China Virus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act, which was enacted in March, provides loans that can be forgiven tax-free if portions of the proceeds are spent on items such as payroll, and that included rents, leases, utilities. So, and they kept kind of expanding that list, but it's forgiven tax-free, so the income's tax-free, but you can't write off the expenses either. So it's going to be a net wash, but what's going to happen is it's going to raise your taxes because your income, you made money, okay, but now you've reduced your expenses by that amount. And I mean, for some people, this is going to be, like I just said, $80,000, $100,000. So there's going to be some tax due there. And then I'm concerned about estimated tax payments, because the last estimated tax payment is January 15th. So here we are at the end of November, and we really need to figure out if you're going to need to make a bigger estimated tax payment so you don't get hit with a failure to have estimated taxes, done. Or I just don't want people to, in February have to tell them that their tax liability is going to be way larger than what they're used to or what we had planned for. Immediately after the PPP, I'm reading again, immediately after the PPP was created, practitioners noted that it wasn't clear whether expenses funded with PPP loans would be deductible if the loans were forgiven, but the IRS quickly issued Notice 2020-32. Well, no, those of us that are real accountants knew it. I mean, I understand why he's saying that, but we knew because that's just GAAP. That's just generally accepted accounting principles. According to the notice, the expenses funded with the PPP loans weren't deductible to avoid a double tax benefit. Okay, so, and then in the notice, they issued a couple of scenarios. Bottom line, if you believe you're going to get that forgiveness, and really, unless there's a reason you're not, and then if you don't get the forgiveness, then it becomes a loan, or the portion. See, that's the confusion with some people, is a portion of it. So I've got a client that received $32,000 in PPP. I'm doing the numbers, and it looks like he might have to either pay back, or it'll become a loan about $2,000 worth. Not a big deal, right? If he keeps it, it's a low interest loan that he pays back in 3 years, or he can just return it and pay no interest, no nothing. Either way, the guy's out ahead $31,000, which was great. He needed it because his business really took a hit when this whole thing first happened. So this helped him to keep the paychecks coming. So that's the thing. So if you got PPP, if you're wondering, please give me a call. If you don't know, or if you haven't seen the application yet, some banks are being very proactive and they're emailing you and they're letting you know what's up. Others, it's all you hear is tumbleweeds and wind blowing. They're like, well, we'll let you know when we're ready. When they haven't, you'll get an email and no email's coming. So there's been some confusion there too. So give me a call, 828-289-9300. Email me, Gilbert@gilberttalkstaxes.com. Todd, this would be a good place to take a break. Let's do that. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9.
I want to tell you about a little-known Rutherford County gem, Integrity Marble and Granite, located at 287 Shiloh Road in Forest City. They are the premier stone fabrication company in the western North Carolina region. They specialize in granite, marble, and natural stone, offering complete design and installation. Their design center and Kohler showroom features vanities, decorative accessories, bathroom, and kitchen fixtures. You do not have to go to Charlotte or Asheville for this kind of quality. We have it right here in Forest City. Stop in their showroom and browse their beautiful displays, or you can call 828-247-8801 for a free quote. You can also go to their website, www.integritymarblegranite.com, and look at the pictures and see samples of their available materials. Now, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes, and they will give you $100 off any sink purchase. That's Integrity Marble and Granite.
Let Jesse James Railroad Express be your daily lunch stop. Enjoy delicious burgers, clubs, fresh salads, and much more. And now Jesse has an incredible daily lunch special that you cannot resist. 2 hot dogs, a bag of chips, and a 16-ounce drink for only $4.99. Now that's what I call a lunch special. Now don't forget your refreshing Coke float, Dr. Pepper float, or an orange creamsicle float, or a hand-dipped ice cream cone. Open Monday through Friday, 11 till 6, Saturday, 11 till 4, closed Wednesday and Sundays. Located at 531 Railroad Avenue in Rutherfordton, call 828-447-4644 for takeout orders. All aboard the Jesse James Railroad Express. And Mondays only, mention this ad, get a regular hot dog with mustard, chili, and onions for only 99 cents.
Gilbert Talks Taxes. We are back. That was the International Morse Code signal as we begin the second half of the program. We're on the other side of it now. WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9. Todd and I were just talking here during the break about various things. So how do you feel about our are you encouraged with what I shared this morning?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Todd's he's encouraged. He's encouraged. Well, you know, that's why I've stopped watching. I have stopped, and I mean this. People don't believe it when I say it. I have stopped watching all media. I'm not, because it's gotten that bad. Actually, I stopped about 3 days, so it's been about 10 days that I have not watched anything from any mainstream media source. Now, the only one I do look in on is Epoch Times. That's it. That's the only one, and I'm just looking at some things there. Other than the emails that I get from listeners and emails I get from my financial back office for things I need to know that are happening in the financial world for the investments I manage. Other than that, there's nothing, because it's all lies. It's just all lies. I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of it. It's just lie after lie after lie. I read a book a man wrote, and he said, you got to understand, the media does not tell truth. The media just repeats what other people say. So they're not interested in telling truth. They'll just, and if you're somebody, anybody, especially if you're a celebrity, they'll aim a camera at you. I mean, unbelievable. One politician, and again, this is why I believe, not just because I feel God's told me, not just from what I see, but Donald Trump won by the biggest landslide ever. Why do I believe it? Because the things they keep saying, and the media, you wouldn't be saying these things. You wouldn't be saying these things, but I can't even remember who it was now, Schumer or somebody, I think it was Schumer, so all of them, said, well, we have a plan if Donald Trump can pull this off and get back in the White House. I'm like, he's never left the White House. You sound like you locked him out or something. Excuse me, he's there, okay? Their plan is they're just going to ignore him. I'm like, are you serious? You're going to ignore Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump could stand out on the White House front lawn just looking at clouds, and there will be 400 media trucks there videoing him. He is the most... And they'll blame him for something, said Todd. Yes, you're right. They'll blame him for... He could just be standing in the front lawn. And they will come... Do you remember okay, so 2016, at the Democrat National Convention, they're having a Democrat National Convention down in Florida, somewhere in Florida, I can't remember where, and he calls a press conference in Pennsylvania. All the reporters got on airplanes, left the Democrat convention, and flew up to Pennsylvania for his press conference. And it was just a media stunt he pulled, just because he could. And they all showed up there for that. So they're really going to ignore this man? No. It ain't going to happen. But they wouldn't be saying things like that if he hadn't won. Okay. Now, last minute, we are wrapping up here. You have 1 month left to do things to reduce your taxable income, okay, legally. So let me talk about some last-minute year-end deductions. Last-minute year-end deductions, okay? You technically have till December 31st to enact these things, like literally that day. And especially this year that it falls on, this year that it's not falling on a weekend. So there are things you can do. I tell you about my clients that I've got several clients that every year, December 31st, they're at a car dealership somewhere calling me up. How much money do I have? What do I need to do? Where's it at? Even though I just talked to them 2 weeks before, I told them all the numbers. They want to go over it again, because now they're actually there looking at cars or looking at vehicles or trucks or equipment, whatever they need, to spend that money. Okay, so you have time before December 31st to take steps that will help you fund your retirement. Okay, so I'm just going to go over some big picture things that you can do. And again, reach out to me if you want to discuss any of these, more in depth. That is what I usually do in December. We discuss these things and we try to get your taxable liability down. Now, if you're just a person that works somewhere and just gets, W-2, consider maximizing if the employer has a 401k plan, or it may be a SEP or a simple, or whatever you have. The first thing you do is consider maximizing it, contributing to it, the maximum, because depending on the kind of plan you have, depends on that number's different for the different plans. If you have just a traditional IRA that you are self-funding because your company doesn't offer something, or you don't want to take part of what your company's offering, you have something, you can contribute up to $7,000. If you're over 50, 7,000, 6,000, you can contribute. If you're under, you can contribute the maximum. Can you contribute the maximum? and you have till April 15th of next year to do it. But it's good to make this decision now so we can calculate the number and see where you're going to be at with it, how much to do. But you can do that now. Some of the 401ks you have to contribute by the end of the year, or at least let your employer know now that you're going to make that contribution to max it out. Look at that. Please look at that, because that is the biggest bang for your buck right there in reducing your taxable income and putting money away for your retirement. So it's very important. So I'm going to talk real quick about just 4 different things. I'm going to hit on them. How much time do I have left? Oh, we got all kinds of time. Establish your 2020 retirement plan before December 31st if you're self-employed, or you're self-employed, you own the business, so you can make both an employee and an employer contribution. Now, you can even do this if you're sole proprietor and you're the only worker. I mean, you're the sole owner and you're the worker, you're it. If you got a partnership or a corporation, you can do this, okay? You can establish a retirement plan. Now, you can claim up to a $15,000 up to $15,000 in tax credits by having your business create a retirement plan that covers you and your employees. You can also claim up to $1,500 in tax credits by enabling what's called automatic contribution. And number 4, you can convert to a Roth IRA. Okay, so the first one, establish your 2020 retirement. Now, if you're self-employed and you do not have a retirement plan in place, you really need to look at this. Okay, a lot of people think that they're expensive to set up, hard to maintain, and so on and so on. They're not. They're simple to set up. They're not expensive. As a matter of fact, they don't cost anything if you're just going to set up a basic plan. It's very, very cost effective, other than the normal fees and things you have to have this. Again, and you have to have some cash to put in the plan, but if you're in business, hopefully you're going to have some cash, or why are you in business? Get busy, because get busy and do this. You've got 1 month left to get this guy in place for 2020. Okay? For most defined contribution plans, that's what a 401k is. You, the owner/employee, owner/employer, you're both the employee and the employer, whether you operate as a corporation or a partnership. And that's good because you can make both the employer and the employee contribution, allowing you to put in a good chunk of money. And really, that's a great, great way to save money for your retirement plan, and it's a big chunk of money, and it's a deduction to the business. So you're actually getting multiple tax benefits there. In general, your plan document will define when you can make employee or employer contributions that will produce the 2020 tax deduction. Make sure you know exactly when you can make the employer contribution and the employer contribution. So you got those 2 things going on, the employee contribution and the employer contribution. So you got to make sure you have that. So if you have your S Corporation 401k plan in place on or before December 31st, 2020, you can make your personal employee contribution on or before December 31st, 2020. You can also make the employer contribution on or before December 2020, or any time before 2020 tax return is due. Okay? So let me say that again. Anytime, this is the employer contribution. You can make the employer contribution on or before December 31st, or any time before the 2020 tax return is due, which for S Corp would be March 15th, 2021. So you have an extra 3 months, 2.5 months to do this, okay? Now, but if you extend, you have till September 15th of 2021. So now we've added a full 8.5 months to this thing, and this is major. This is really, really major, because you have to either March 15th or September 15th to make the employer portion. So you can make the employee portion by December 31st and make the employer portion. I mean, you can roll that over all the way over into September of next year. Okay, so if you're interested in more information on that, please give me a call. Number 2, you can claim, so there's a new retirement plan startup tax credit. It can be up to $15,000. Okay, are you the solo worker of the business, and is your retirement plan in place. Now, we can still get it in place by December 31st, okay? But if you're the solo worker and your retirement plan is in place, if you can answer no to both questions, consider this. By establishing a new qualified retirement plan, now that's a 401k, a defined benefits plan, a simple IRA, or a SEP, you can qualify for a non-refundable tax credit. That's non-refundable. Once you get it, that's it. That's the greater of $500 or the lesser of $200 multiplied by the employees. The maximum on that credit it can be up to $15,000. Okay, the credit's based on the qualified startup costs of setting this up, the establishment and administration of the plan, and the retirement-related education of employees with respect to the plan. Because there's a lot now. This is where these plans get a little more expensive. When you've got a lot of employees, you got to set this up, a lot of paperwork, and there are some fees. Well, they're giving you a $15,000 credit, up to $15,000 credit to offset these fees. So basically, if you do this right, you can set up the plan for almost nothing. The credit's applied to the year of the startup and for the next 2 years. So it's capped at $5,000 a year, but you can go on for 3 years total. So $15,000 maximum. You can deduct any costs in excess of the tax credit as ordinary and necessary expenses. And that's the thing about setting these plans up. These are all expenses to the business. So they reduce taxable income on the business, and they reduce your taxable income on the personal side because you're contributing money to your retirement plan. Okay, number 3, claim the new automatic enrollment $500 tax credit for each of the 3 years. That's up to $1,500. Now, this is part of the Secure Act. I know I'm going a little quick here because I want to get into our last break, but this is part of the Secure Act, and this is a pretty good tax credit. Pretty good tax credit. $500 tax credit for each of 3 years, $1,500. Again, this is a non-refundable credit for up to 3 years. The new $500 auto contribution tax credits in addition to the other startup credit, so it's not in lieu of. So that actually would be added to the other one. And you can't have more than 100 employees, and compensation. There's some compensation limits on it. I'm not going to get into that because that's going to confuse everybody. Just know that this credit is out there. Now, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and I'm going to talk about the last one because that one gets a little deep. Converting to a Roth IRA. Okay, I'm going to talk about converting to a Roth IRA when you get back. WCAB AM 590 FM 100.9.
Hi there, this is Kimberly, and I'm here to tell you about Peterson's Auto Service and Detail Shop. As a woman, I'm often apprehensive about taking my car to a dirty service garage. But you can be assured that Peterson's, located at 478 Butler Road, Forest City, has an incredibly clean and safe environment where you get high-quality service at a great price. Peterson's was voted Rutherford County's best auto service 3 years in a row. So take your car to Peterson's for brakes, oil change, North Carolina inspection, tire rotation, headlight lens restoration, scratch removal, and meticulous auto detailing. That's Peterson's at 478 Butler Road, Forest City. You can call him for an appointment at 245-8889.
People come up to me and say, Gilbert, thank you for doing my tax return, and thank you for getting me that big refund. Do you have any ideas what I can do with that refund? Oh, yes, I do. Take that refund right over to NC Tractor and Farm Supply, talk to Phil, get you a brand new shiny red Massey Ferguson. That's NC Tractor and Farm Supply, Railroad Avenue. You can call Phil at 828-429-5008. By the way, mention you heard it on Gilbert Talks Taxes. I'm hoping he'll give me a discount when I go buy my brand new shiny Massey Ferguson tractor.
We are back. We are back. We've just got about, how much time we have left? 8 minutes, which is an eternity in radio. But it does go by so fast. 1 hour just goes by. So we are back. So those of you live streaming, thank you for tuning in. WCAB at www.wcab59.com. And my hair does look fabulous today, by the way. I'm wearing my vintage gray. Got a vintage gray pinstripe on. Wearing a nice pocket square there, reminiscent of who? Who wore pocket squares all the time? Ronald Reagan. Yes. Matching tie. So all vintage, which just means it's old. And so this is going to be the last program for 2020. Todd, I'm not going to come back in December. Can't do it. The schedule just will not allow. We're going to be out of town for continuing education and different things we got going on. Every Saturday's booked. And I was thinking about doing a best of programs and some videos and stuff, but I like doing the program live, and I just think it's what I want to do. So we're going to come back. We will come back January 2nd. We will be back bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready with all kinds of new information, because I will have been in a lot of continuing ed. It's a total of 40 something hours of continuing ed I'm going to be taking in December. For just right under 50 hours I will be taking. So, because I'm an enrolled agent, and that's part of the requirement. You have to stay current on tax law, and we have had a lot of tax law changes this year. I'm not anticipating any year-end tax law changes. I'm not expecting any, we always talk about the extenders and things that they're going to go ahead and extend, and credits that may sunset at the end of the year. Are we going to lose them, keep them, what? We're not expecting any of that this year. I think that the election has taken up all of the available bandwidth for anything else getting done in Washington. I just don't see anything happening in any legislative session, especially with the holiday schedule the way it is. Pretty much from the 23rd of December, that Wednesday, till January 4th, nothing's going to happen. They are going to shut down and just go home. Just go home. So we will see. Two elections that are still not decided is because they're going to have the runoffs January 5th in Georgia for the two senators down there. So key crucial race. It looks good for Kelly Loeffler. Looks good for her. I think it looks good for Purdue too. The Democrats down there that are running are really just really out there. Really out there. They've got some pretty extreme platforms. I'd be shocked if this was even a close race. I really would be. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that won't be decided till January 5th. That'll be voted in January 5th, and there is early voting in that. Okay, I'm going to talk about this. Last thing I'm going to talk about is converting to a Roth IRA. Now, this is something you can do. This is very tricky. I think everybody should look at this. If you have a traditional IRA, you should look to convert. I'm not saying to convert. I'm not saying to do it. I'm saying you should look at this. There could be a tax benefit for you, long-term tax benefit, to do this. So, consider converting your 401k or your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. Now, I would tell you to meet with your financial advisor and discuss this. If you're one of my clients, I'm always looking at this for you, or at least bringing it up in conversation. And, there's some basic things I can do to tell if this is good for you or not. If you make good money on your IRA investments, and you won't need your IRA money during the next 5 years. Okay, so you're making good money in your investments, and you're not going to need your IRA money for the next 5 years. The Roth IRA, over its lifetime, can produce financial results far superior to the traditional retirement plan. Okay, so let me go over the nutshell. Todd, you're going to give me the 1 minute sign there that we have. I'm going to have 1 minute left. And again, if you're wondering about this, give me a call, send me an email, gilbert@gilberttalkstaxes.com. Call me at 828-289-9300. I can discuss this with you. I can also send you an email, something in an email, kind of nutshelling what this is. But in a traditional IRA, you don't pay. You put the money away tax deferred. It's not tax free. It's tax deferred. You're going to pay the tax on it, and the same thing with a 401k, a SEP, a Simple, all these plans. You're going to pay the tax on it when you take the money out. The theory being you're going to take it out when you're in retirement. When you're in retirement, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. That's the theory. Although what's been happening now is people are working later people are collecting Social Security, pensions, and working. A lot of them, not because they have to, because they want to. They're at 67. They're in great health. They don't have any intention to stop working. They'd like to work. I've got people in their mid 70s working. I've actually got a lady that's 80 that works full time and loves it. She loves it. She's got no intentions of slowing down. So people are just living longer and they're in better health. So when you have to start taking that money out at 70 and a half, now that just got raised to 72 this year, but it was 70 and a half. When you start taking that money out, you may not be in a lower tax bracket than you were when you put the money away. That's what we're finding, okay? With a Roth IRA, you do not put the money away tax deferred, okay? You pay the tax on the money, so there's no initial tax break on it, okay? And you know, if you make a $7,000 traditional IRA contribution, it can bring your tax return, again, it's different, it depends on your income, but just to give you an idea, it can bring your tax bill down by $2,000. You know, and it will create a credit. I mean, it will generate a refund. I mean, it just so, and it can be up to that much, or it could be little. It just depends on your taxes. But the fact that we're talking about real money there. So a lot of people are doing this now with the Roth. You don't get the tax break, but when you start taking the money out, you're not going to pay any tax on the gain. Okay? And anybody that's been watching the stock market knows we are having crazy, I mean, we've been setting records. The gain has been incredible. We've had double digit returns. So the tax that some people are going to be paying when they start tapping into these IRAs is pretty critical. Okay, so you convert it. I just got 1 minute from Todd. So you convert your IRA from a traditional, your 401k, from a traditional to a Roth. And what happens is, this is the tricky part, you got to pay all the tax now. Okay? You got to pay all the tax now. Now, there are some strategies there because of some of the Secure Act and the 3-year deferment. I'm paying the tax and no penalty for 59.5 on the first 100,000 because of the coronavirus, the China virus. So some of that can come into play there, and there are some things that you can do there. But the money has to be paid now, and then you won't, if you don't need to touch that money for the next 5 years, because to get that full deferral, that money's got to sit in there for 5 years. Okay? So if this is something, an IRA conversion is something you may want to look at. Okay? If you can pay the tax and you're having a good investment, you don't need the money in 5 years, there may be a very long-term tax benefit for you to do this. Okay? My time is up today. I will be back next year, January 2nd. And if you need me, give me a call. We will be available. The office is open. We are there. I'm just not going to be able to come back on Saturdays. So